Welcome to my channel. I never thought a simple Saturday morning could spiral into something so completely out of control. My name is Alex, and on the surface, I had a pretty normal life: college, a part-time job at the local bookstore, and a steady relationship with Isabella. But Isabella, my girlfriend of almost a year, had a habit of turning even ordinary days into elaborate adventures, testing limits and pushing boundaries in ways I never imagined. It started innocently enough. Isabella and I were lounging in her apartment, sunlight spilling through the curtains and casting golden patterns across the hardwood floor. She had that mischievous glint in her eyes that I'd come to both adore and fear. "I have an idea," she said, twirling a strand of her long chestnut hair around her finger. "A challenge." I raised an eyebrow, already wary. Isabella's challenges rarely ended with things staying normal. "What kind of challenge?" I asked cautiously. "Something fun. Something transformative," she replied, her voice sweet but layered with an underlying intensity. "I want you to step into my world. For one day. Or maybe longer." I laughed nervously, not entirely sure what she meant. "Your world? You mean, your clothes, your makeup? Come on, Isabella. That's ridiculous." She leaned in closer, her gaze locking onto mine with a seriousness that sent shivers down my spine. "Not ridiculous. Important. I want you to see things from my perspective, to understand me fully. You trust me, right?" The question hung in the air, heavy and almost suffocating. Of course, I trusted Isabella, but this was new territory. Something about the way she framed it made it hard to say no. Before I could respond, she had already whisked me toward her bedroom, her hand warm and insistent on my arm. The room was neat, organized, and distinctly hers. Dresses of every color hung from the racks, shoes lined up in precise order, and makeup spread across a vanity like a painter's palette. My pulse quickened, part nervousness, part curiosity. I had experimented with crossdressing before, mostly in private, under the safety of my own apartment. But this felt different. Isabella was orchestrating everything. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about control, guidance, and revelation. "Sit," she commanded softly, guiding me toward a chair in front of the mirror. "I'm going to show you something. Something you've never seen before." I sat, my hands resting on my knees, unsure whether to brace myself or surrender. She began pulling outfits from her wardrobe, holding them up against me with an artist's eye. "This one," she said, holding a pastel pink dress that would have seemed frivolous on any normal day. "Perfect for you. Trust me." I hesitated, glancing at the floor. "I don't know. I mean, I've never." She cut me off gently, brushing a lock of hair behind my ear. "Shoo. It's okay. Just follow my lead. I promise you'll see a side of yourself you've never imagined." And with that, the transformation began. The initial moments were awkward, slipping into the dress, adjusting it to fit my frame, and feeling the strange foreign texture against my skin. But Isabella's hands were steady, guiding me, adjusting, perfecting. Her touch was gentle, patient, yet commanding. Then came the makeup. I watched her work, her brush gliding over my face, transforming my features with colors and contours that highlighted a feminine version of me I barely recognized. Each stroke made my heart beat louder, a mix of exhilaration and unease building inside me. I was becoming her twin, her vision of me, part reflection, part fantasy. As she applied the final touches, I looked into the mirror and almost didn't recognize the person staring back. My own eyes widened. The face was mine, yet softened, reshaped, and undeniably feminine. I was seeing a reflection that blurred the lines between me and Isabella, reality and transformation. "You see," she whispered, standing behind me. "This is you. Or at least a part of you you've never let out. And trust me, once you embrace it, there's no going back." I felt a tremor of excitement and fear run through me. My reflection seemed alive, watching me, judging me, daring me to step further into this new identity. Isabella's hand rested on my shoulder, grounding me even as she pushed me toward the unknown. "I want you to try walking in them," she said, nodding toward a pair of high heels she had placed neatly beside the chair. My stomach twisted. The shoes were delicate, elegant, and terrifyingly high. I had never walked in heels before. You'll learn. I'll guide you. Every step was a test: balance, posture, confidence. I stumbled at first, the unfamiliar heels making each movement a careful negotiation with gravity. But as Isabella coached me, adjusting my shoulders and tilting my chin just so, something shifted. I began to move more naturally, more confidently. The awkwardness faded, replaced by a new, intoxicating sense of self. By the time I finished, I was transformed, not just physically but emotionally. A thrill of power, vulnerability, and connection surged through me. Isabella smiled, her eyes bright with satisfaction. See? I told you. You're ready. I swallowed, trying to process everything. This wasn't just a challenge. It was an awakening. I was stepping into a side of myself I hadn't dared to explore, guided by someone who knew exactly how to unlock it. And as I looked at my reflection one last time before we left the room, I realized with a mix of dread and excitement that Isabella's plan had only just begun, and there was no turning back. The first hour of the challenge had already changed everything. My identity, my perception, even my relationship with Isabella felt different. I was her twin now in every sense: appearance, demeanor, and the secret thrill of surrendering control. What would come next? Only time would tell. The day that followed my first transformation with Isabella was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had thought the initial thrill of putting on her clothes and makeup was the peak, but it was only the beginning. Isabella had planned a series of steps to push me further, physically, emotionally, and socially. Internal struggles. From the moment I woke up, I felt different. The reflection in the mirror no longer startled me. Instead, it beckoned me with a strange familiarity. My hair, perfectly styled by Isabella the night before, framed my face in a way that made me look both like myself and someone entirely new. My body felt foreign yet strangely natural in the clothes she had selected. The pastel dress clung to my frame, emphasizing curves I had never fully acknowledged, and the high heels added a sway to my walk that I hadn't realized I could carry with such confidence. But with excitement came doubt. What was I doing? How far was too far? The idea that Isabella could control every aspect of my appearance, and perhaps even my behavior, was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Every step I took in those heels felt like a gamble, every glance in the mirror a test of my courage. I was walking a fine line between exhilaration and exposure. Isabella had prepared a schedule for the day. The first task was to practice basic feminine movements, posture, gestures, and walking. She showed me how to tilt my hips subtly, how to angle my hands gracefully, how to speak with a slightly higher tone without sounding forced. At first, it felt absurd, almost comical, but with her coaching, I began to internalize the motions. My nervous laughter gradually faded into something more fluid, more natural. Next came makeup refinement. She demonstrated contouring techniques, eyeshadow blending, and lip coloring, guiding my hand as I attempted to mimic her movements. Every mistake was met with gentle correction. A little more here, a touch softer there, until my face looked almost indistinguishable from hers. The thrill of seeing my reflection slowly transform into her twin filled me with a strange, addictive pride. The most nerve-wracking part came when Isabella suggested I venture into the apartment wearing my new look while she remained in another room. "I want you to experience what it's like to be fully seen, even if just by yourself," she explained. My heart raced as I tiptoed into the living room, heels clicking softly against the floor. Each sound seemed amplified, as if the walls themselves were aware of my secret. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet undeniably powerful. This small act, simply walking and existing in my transformed state, was a test of both confidence and self-control. To heighten the suspense, Isabella introduced unexpected visitors into the day. A close friend would call, requiring me to answer while staying in character. I stammered at first, my voice wavering, but soon found myself adapting, maintaining the illusion of a fully feminine persona even during normal conversation. The challenge was exhilarating and frightening. The constant threat of being caught or revealed made each interaction electric with tension. As the day wore on, I noticed subtle shifts within myself. Movements that had initially felt awkward became second nature. I began to notice the way my reflection mirrored Isabella's gestures and expressions, creating an uncanny connection between us. It wasn't just her clothes or makeup that made me feel like her twin. It was the way I moved, spoke, and carried myself under her guidance. My emotions were a whirlwind. Pride, embarrassment, thrill, and fear collided in rapid succession. Every compliment Isabella gave, "You're perfect, you're beautiful," stirred a complex mixture of satisfaction and anxiety. Could I ever step out of this persona and feel normal again? The thought of returning to my old self suddenly seemed limiting, almost constraining. Isabella's plan was more than cosmetic. She wanted to challenge my identity, my sense of self, and my willingness to surrender control. She carefully monitored my reactions, noting when I hesitated, when I faltered, and when I flourished. Each small victory was rewarded with encouragement, each misstep met with teasing correction. The duality of being myself while also being her twin created a fascinating internal conflict. Was this transformation purely for fun, or was it revealing a deeper desire within me? The thrill of submission, the allure of beauty, and the joy of being guided so completely were intoxicating, yet I couldn't shake the nagging fear of judgment, both from others and from myself. Isabella continued to push boundaries with small tasks designed to test my adaptability and composure. She had me model various outfits in front of the mirror, practicing poses and expressions. Then she introduced accessories, bracelets, earrings, even a handbag that I had to carry with effortless elegance. Each item demanded attention and practice, forcing me to embody a persona that was part Alex, part Isabella, and part fantasy. The highlight, and most nerve-wracking moment, was when she asked me to record a short video of myself speaking in character. Watching it afterward, I barely recognized the person on screen. My voice was soft, my gestures delicate, and my appearance nearly identical to hers. The realization hit me like a jolt. Isabella had turned me into her twin, not just visually but in essence. What made the experience truly suspenseful wasn't just the physical transformation. It was the constant awareness that at any moment, someone could interrupt, exposing me in this new form. Each time the phone rang or the doorbell chimed, my pulse surged, my body tensing in anticipation. I had to maintain composure, balancing excitement with fear. Even alone, the mirror became a source of tension. I found myself practicing expressions, testing movements, and imagining reactions. Every tilt of my head, every smile, was scrutinized as if the reflection could judge my authenticity. The suspense wasn't external, it was internal, a relentless challenge to prove that I could inhabit this identity fully and convincingly. By the end of the day, I had walked, spoken, and existed as Isabella's twin for hours. I had faced internal doubts, physical discomfort, and psychological pressure, and survived. The thrill of transformation, the excitement of secrecy, and the intensity of surrender had merged into a single, powerful experience. But as night fell and I prepared to remove the dress and heels, a creeping sense of unease took hold. Isabella's plan had worked, too well. I had glimpsed a version of myself that was intoxicatingly beautiful, confident, and feminine. And deep down, I knew that returning to my old self might never feel the same again. Little did I know, the real challenges, the tests that would push me to the brink of exposure, embarrassment, and identity conflict, were only just beginning. Isabella's plan had only revealed the surface. The deeper, more suspenseful layers awaited in the hours to come. The tension that had been simmering throughout the day erupted the next morning. Isabella's challenges intensified, pushing me past the boundaries I thought I had established. I woke up in her carefully arranged bedroom, sunlight streaming through the curtains, and immediately noticed the subtle adjustments she had made overnight. New outfits laid out, shoes polished, and accessories perfectly aligned. Every detail reminded me that this was no longer a casual experiment. This was a full-scale transformation, and I was at the center of it. Isabella had arranged for a small gathering of close friends at our apartment, ostensibly just for tea. But the moment I stepped out of the bedroom, clad in a form-fitting dress, high heels, and makeup that made me almost indistinguishable from her, I felt the walls closing in. My heart raced with a mixture of excitement and terror. What if someone recognized me? What if I faltered under their gaze? The doorbell rang, and Isabella whispered, "Time to meet your audience, twin." I swallowed hard, my hands trembling slightly as I adjusted my dress. Every step toward the door was a test. Heels clicking against the hardwood floor, a rhythmic reminder of the stakes I faced. As the guests arrived, their initial greetings were casual, but the moment they saw me, silence hung briefly in the air. Whispers, subtle glances, and quick smiles told me that the transformation had worked, almost too well. One of Isabella's friends leaned in and said softly, "Wow, you look just like her." The words sent a shiver down my spine. I had become more than a twin in appearance. I had become a near-perfect replica, complete with mannerisms and subtle gestures I had unconsciously adopted. Every interaction felt like walking a tightrope. I laughed when expected, nodded in agreement, and mirrored gestures with uncanny precision. Inside, however, I was a storm of anxiety. The thrill of admiration clashed with the fear of being discovered. My pulse quickened with every passing second, my palms sweaty despite my outward composure. At one point, Isabella handed me a clutch purse and whispered, "Carry it naturally. Don't think, just feel." The weight in my hand became symbolic of the entire challenge, a tangible reminder that I was being tested constantly. One false move, one awkward gesture, could unravel the illusion entirely. Midway through the gathering, the doorbell rang again. Isabella's friends had mentioned that a neighbor might stop by, and the timing couldn't have been worse. I froze as Isabella shot me a look that combined amusement and challenge. The neighbor's voice called from outside, friendly and unsuspecting. I had to respond, maintain composure, and navigate this unplanned interaction flawlessly. I opened the door, forcing a smile, and greeted the neighbor with a tone and posture I had practiced countless times. The conversation was brief, but every word, every gesture felt amplified under the weight of suspense. As soon as the door closed, I exhaled sharply, realizing how close I had come to being exposed. Isabella's approving nod reassured me, but also reminded me that the day was far from over. Later, Isabella asked me to pose in front of the full-length mirror, dressed in my outfit with hair and makeup perfect. She wanted me to see the full effect. As I gazed at my reflection, I felt a surreal mix of pride, fear, and disorientation. The person staring back was me, yet not me. Every curve, every expression mirrored Isabella's, blurring the line between self and twin. Then, in a moment of suspense, a heel slipped slightly on the polished floor. I caught myself, but the jolt sent my reflection wobbling. The mirror captured both stability and vulnerability, an apt metaphor for my dual existence. Isabella's soft laughter from behind me reminded me that every moment was a test, every slip a lesson in maintaining composure under pressure. As the evening progressed, Isabella introduced a new layer of challenge. She asked me to interact with her friends alone, without her direct guidance, and to answer personal questions naturally. The questions ranged from casual preferences to deeper topics about relationships and identity. Each answer required careful navigation, balancing honesty with the persona I had adopted. The psychological tension was intense. Every word could reveal too much, every gesture could betray my true self. I felt a wave of exhilaration mixed with fear. For the first time, I realized that this transformation wasn't just about clothes or makeup. It was about inhabiting an entirely new identity, one that was simultaneously liberating and confining. The thrill of control clashed with the anxiety of exposure, creating a tension that was both addictive and terrifying. The night wasn't without close calls. One of Isabella's friends jokingly teased me about imitating her too perfectly, and I had to suppress laughter while maintaining my composure. Another moment came when a phone call required me to speak in character for several minutes while handling unexpected technical difficulties. My hands shook slightly, but I managed to stay in persona, earning a quiet nod of approval from Isabella. Every incident intensified the stakes, reinforcing the psychological pressure that had been building throughout the day. I was no longer just crossdressing, I was performing a high-stakes role, with every movement, word, and expression scrutinized by both Isabella and others. By the end of the evening, I felt both exhausted and exhilarated. I had navigated the social challenges, maintained the illusion, and survived close calls that could have shattered my confidence. Yet a lingering unease remained. Isabella's plan had succeeded beyond my expectations, so well that the line between my original self and my twin persona was now dangerously blurred. I realized that the transformation was no longer temporary. The thrill, the confidence, and the subtle power I felt in this new identity were intoxicating. But so was the fear of losing control, of being discovered, or of never fully returning to my previous self. The suspense was no longer external, it was internal, a constant tension between who I had been and who I was becoming. As I returned to Isabella's room to remove the outfit and heels, my reflection caught my eye once more. The mirror held both faces, the original me and the twin she had crafted. A shiver ran down my spine. I had survived the day's challenges, but the true test was only beginning. How much of this identity would remain? How far would Isabella push me next? The night ended with the same suspense that had defined the day, unresolved, intense, and charged with anticipation. I was no longer merely experimenting, I was living a dual existence, with every heartbeat echoing the uncertainty of what tomorrow might bring. The first time I saw it, I laughed. A small, glittering box sat on the kitchen table, tied with a ribbon so pink it almost hurt my eyes. My mom's eyes sparkled behind her glasses as she handed it to me. "Open it," she said, her tone light but unmistakably firm. Inside was a pair of delicate high heels, impossibly tiny for my size, and a note scrawled in her elegant handwriting. 1 week. Just 7 days in these, dressed as the perfect daughter. Are you up for the challenge? I blinked at her, half amused, half confused. Mom had always been eccentric, but this was something else entirely. "You're joking," I said. "I never joke about family challenges," she replied, a mischievous grin tugging at her lips. "You accept, or you fail. And failure? Well, let's just say it won't be pleasant." I swallowed hard, staring at the heels. The room felt suddenly smaller, the sunlight filtering through the kitchen window casting an almost theatrical glow on the task ahead. My mom had always been a perfectionist, controlling in subtle, sometimes suffocating ways. But this was a different level. I was used to keeping a certain side of myself hidden. My normal life, college classes, work at a local bookstore, quiet evenings alone, was predictable, safe. I'd experimented with fashion and self-expression in private, dabbling in subtle ways that let me explore without risking judgment. But this challenge threatened to expose everything. Mom, for all her quirks, had always known me too well. She could see my insecurities, my secret thrills. And now, with this challenge, she was pushing me further than I had ever dared to go. My room had become my sanctuary for private experiments. Mirrors lined the walls, clothes hung neatly on racks, and shoes, high heels among them, were arranged like trophies of past adventures. But the heels on the kitchen table were different. They weren't just shoes. They were a symbol of the week-long transformation that would begin the moment I slipped them on. I picked them up, feeling the delicate leather between my fingers, imagining the unfamiliar weight on my feet, the precarious balance they would demand. Excitement prickled along my spine, mingling with the fear of exposure. 1 week. 7 days. Could I really become the perfect daughter my mom wanted me to be? She had laid out strict instructions. Every day, I would dress completely in feminine attire, including makeup, accessories, and the heels. I had to attend family functions, run errands, even participate in her social events. Every detail mattered: posture, speech, gestures. My mom was a stickler for perfection, and she expected nothing less. "And remember," she added, her eyes glinting with a challenge, "this isn't just about looking the part. You have to feel it, live it. By the end of the week, I want everyone to believe you are the daughter I've always imagined." I laughed nervously, attempting to hide the fluttering excitement in my chest. This was ridiculous. I'd never thought of myself as someone who could pull off something like this. And yet, there was a thrill, a magnetic pull toward the unknown. The idea of transforming, of stepping fully into a new persona, even temporarily, was intoxicating. My mind raced. Could I handle it? Would I stumble, betray the illusion with a slip of confidence or awkwardness? The fear of failure mingled with a strange, undeniable curiosity. What would it feel like to walk in her shoes, literally? Could I become the perfect daughter, even just for a week? Finally, I slipped on the heels. They were snug, unfamiliar, and the moment I stood, I wobbled slightly, my balance thrown off entirely. The unfamiliar sensation coursed through me, a mix of vulnerability and exhilaration. I caught my reflection in the mirror, and for a brief second, I saw someone else staring back. someone delicate, poised, undeniably feminine. Mom clapped her hands softly, and I knew the challenge had truly begun. "Good," she said. "Now remember, this is just day one. Keep it perfect." As I practiced walking across my room, each step a cautious negotiation with the heels, I realized something profound. This week wasn't just about shoes or dresses. It was about identity, control, and surrender. About pushing the boundaries of who I thought I was, and discovering a side of myself I'd never known. The first day had begun. And already, I could feel my life shifting, inch by precarious inch, into a realm I might never escape.